Hey everybody, welcome back into Mining Stock Daily. We're going to kick off this week with a corporate update from Regulus Resources and CEO Mr. John Black. Regulus Resources do trade on the Venture Exchange with REG and on the OTCQX with RGLSF. John, I thought you'd appreciate this. I went a little casual today for the video. I wore my brand new Rapids hat because I know, getting to know you over the last couple of years, you and I spend a lot of time with this club, and so I figured if anybody appreciates it, it would be you. So
Yep, and we got to stick through the good times and the bad times. Yep. So yep.
Yeah, actually, it might be a little bit more exciting watching our family play, but the first team club is not doing so great. But anyways, let's stick to business here, John. You put out first results, phase one results. With the collaboration with Rio Tinto's Nuton technology. We're starting to see these results come in. A couple of your peers have published these results as well, so it's great to see. Copper extraction from your high sulphidation mineralizations up to 95%. From the skarn-style mineralization, 85%, and the breccia porphyry style mineralization, 75%. John, we had a conversation with Joe Mazumdar not too long ago, and we talked specifically about what Joe would like to see as far as recoverable rates before he gets really excited. And he said 80%. Oh, dang it, John, you're up there. I mean, so talk to us about these phase one results. Obviously, very promising, but how does the company continue to integrate that into the economics of the project?
Okay, absolutely. And it's important to note that, well, first, we're very pleased with these results. We anticipated they would be good, and they've come in even better than we anticipated, which is a great start. But it's important to put them in context what this first phase is. These first phase samples are, they're called flask tests or commonly known as bottle roll tests in the industry. So they're small samples that are agitated, and it's a very rapid process. It's done in a matter of a couple days to determine if the material is amenable to this type of technology to go forward. So it's the first phase you do to even see if the project's a go or not. This was work that was done prior to Rio Tinto coming in and making the large investment into us. And it was all done under confidentiality. But now that we've established the phase two program with them, they've allowed us to present these first phase results. And the next stage, our stage two test work, will be moving to columns, which simulate more actual conditions for the mining. But we're very pleased with these results. As I mentioned, they're not terribly surprising that they're good results for us on this, in that the predominant ore type we have in this deposit is high sulphidation epithermal mineralization. That represents the majority of the mineralization we have in all of the early years of the mine life. And the nature of that ore is almost ideal for the Nuton technology. And keep in mind, the Nuton technology suite that Rio Tinto developed was developed in many ways with an eye towards their La Granja project, which is just up the road from us in Cajamarca. So they were eyeballing material like this. And some of the key characteristics of the material we have is we have a relatively high pyrite content, and we have gangue mineralogy that does not consume acid and absorb that, and is quite permeable material. So it's almost ideal for this type of processing. So it's not surprising we see those results. Typically, as you move to columns, those numbers will move down a little bit, but that allows us to be in the range of plus 80% recovery on at least the first half of the mine life on this. And I anticipate we'll be able to improve recoveries on the porphyry style mineralization and breccia style mineralization, which would be late in the mine life as well.
So obviously phase one, preliminary in nature, very small program. So now we move on to phase two, and you highlighted it a little bit more there in your response here, John, but it's going to be more replicable of what an actual flow sheet might somewhat look like. Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say. And for example, Arizona Sonoran put out some recent results on that, which are their first look at the columns. They're a little bit ahead of us in the process right now. The full phase two program will take about a year to complete, but we get results midway through that period of time. So where we're at right now is we're working very closely with Rio Tinto on defining that phase two program. And some of the good news on it is it looks like we'll be able to use a lot of our existing core and not be dependent on drilling new holes. The drilling of new holes requires some new permitting procedures, and that's going to take us just a little bit longer to get those underway and going. But it won't slow the program down because we'll be able to use existing materials. So we hope to be in a position within the next month or so to announce that we've landed material with Rio Tinto to initiate the column phase.
Okay. And tell us about like these three separate styles of mineralization that you highlighted. Can you kind of walk us through kind of how they fit? And I know this is a big question. Maybe you can provide a little bit simple of an answer. But how do these mineralizations fit within the greater AntaKori project? I mean, where is obviously the recoverable is a preliminary, obviously very positive, but tell us about the size and scope of these of these separate mineralization systems within AntaKori.
Okay, well, so why don't we just step back and talk about the deposit overall? And the AntaKori deposit and the style mineralization we have, there are two basic styles of mineralization. An upper style mineralization that is high sulphidation epithermal, and that's hosted by relatively young Miocene age volcanic rocks. And then beneath that, we have older Cretaceous sediments that host both skarn and porphyry style mineralization within the older rocks at depth. There are actually two distinct ages of mineralization, and the mineralogy is different. Both have very similar copper gold grades to them, but the high sulphidation epithermal mineralization with some spectacular grades and right on the surface, very low strip ratio, have a challenge because they have arsenic associated with those, arsenic and antimony associated with that. So conventional processing of that style of sulfide mineralization through milling and producing a mineral concentrate and getting that to a smelter has challenges because there would be a lot of arsenic associated with it. Surmountable, but still significant challenges to that. And so we've been investigating the traditional way of producing a concentrate and selling it to the market. We've been also investigating whether the production of that concentrate could then be put through an autoclave as a way to solve the arsenic challenge on the project and moving forward. And that's a perfectly viable pathway. That's what Newmont's proposed going forward and their nearby Yanacocha project with. Very good way. You get very good recoveries on both copper and gold on it, but it's very capital intensive. And what the Nuton technology offers is the ability to heap leach the material and recover the gold at very low costs and with some very interesting other benefits. It uses a lot less water. You don't produce a tailing from the project, so you don't need a tailings dam to store that material. It offers a lot of sort of ESG, environmental, social benefits to the project going forward. And so we're very intrigued by this. We don't require the Nuton technology to be successful for the project to be viable to go forward, but we do believe, as well as Rio Tinto clearly believes, that there's an opportunity to make the project economically much more robust if we can pursue this pathway. So one of the challenges that comes up with this is that the technology is designed to recover copper and not necessarily gold on the traditional application of this technology. We're not in a position to talk about it, but we're well aware that there's a lot of gold in the project as well, and we'll be evaluating how we can recover both metals as we move forward with the project.
And I asked that because I want to talk about really how you use this going forward as far as a technical report. I think the last technical report that you put out for the AntaKori project was a resource estimate from 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
That's correct.
And
Okay, so obviously there's been a lot of exploration since then. What is the mindset of the company using these results, these Nuton results, and having them applicable to either an updated resource estimate or even a PEA for AntaKori? I mean, is that how do you utilize it at some point when you first put out a PEA, or do you perhaps maybe put out a PEA and having that Nuton results kind of on the back burners, blue sky potential?
well, the one of the challenges we have on this project is that we essentially own a portion of the project and not all of the project. So we have neighbors, a joint venture called the Comalaiche joint venture, which the operators are Buenaventura in partnership with Southern Copper and Espro. So three companies that operate a joint venture,
Hmm.
and they have the other half of the project essentially. And what they're doing next door is they're mining the oxide cap, heap leach mining for gold only, gold and silver only on the top of that, and it's effectively pre-stripping the copper gold sulfides that exist on their side of the project. And then we have the same copper gold sulfide mineralization on our side of the project. So one of the challenges we have is we can present a mineral resource estimate for the mineralization that we have on our ground. But to present a PEA requires some form of collaboration with the neighbors to move forward on that. And that's what we're very actively working on in the background is I think this project makes sense at a large scale in a unified district moving forward. And I think that would be a very good result for all parties involved moving forward. And we're in a
Hmm.
period of time that there's a lot of work going on in the background on how that might happen, but we of course can't report on that until we have a concrete result on moving forward. So it requires a little bit of patience on everyone's part as we wait for
Sure.
that. What we'll likely do is do an updated resource towards the end of this year. And we can do that updated resource with basic assumptions on processing techniques going forward. We don't need to necessarily know whether we're going to go the pathway of Nuton. If we were able to go Nuton, it probably allows us to lower cutoff grades and provide more mineralization reported to resource status. But we don't know that we're quite there. I think we're really about a year away from knowing if that's the best pathway going forward. And so to report a PEA, we'd love to get to a PEA stage. I think it would blow people's minds what a PEA would look like on the greater project overall. But we need to get into a position that we
Yeah.
can show it best and show the entire project when we do that. But we're very, very actively working on
Very
that. And it
okay.
makes a lot of sense going forward to have that stage done.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've asked the same questions to Arizona Sonoran. I asked the same questions to McEwen Copper just
Yep.
last week, and so it all seems very positive, but yet you have to be very careful with how you implement these results. Preliminary, very much preliminary in nature, how you present it to the market, but all things considered, things look pretty good. But we'll continue to follow this story very closely, John. Not only in the greater AntaKori, but how Nuton continues to improve those recoveries. I
Well,
appreciate
I
your
think
time. I know you're on the road, so thanks for
yeah.
giving us some of it. Oh,
Yeah, and
go
I
ahead.
think you pointed out two good examples on McEwen and Arizona Sonora. They're just a little farther ahead and beginning and entering that stage where they can commit to
Sure.
that pathway. So,
Yeah, yeah, very good. Okay, John, have yourself a great rest of your week. Thanks so much.
okay, great. Thanks, Trevor. Look forward to keeping in touch.